The Foreign Office has advised British nationals to leave the Libyan city of Benghazi immediately because of a specific, imminent, possibly terrorist threat. Last September, the American ambassador to Libya and 3 others died during a militant's attack on the US consulate there. The new advice follows last week's kidnapping of gas workers in Algeria and the recent French military intervention in Mali. Here's our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Jonathan Miller.
Ever since Libya's rebel militias overran Gaddafi's army and helped themselves to his guns, Western governments have fretted over who got their hands on what. They were right to be worried. Now, credible intelligence that one source described as terrorist groups were planning an Algeria-style attack in Libya. Expatriates on oil fields, once again the apparent intended target. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office didn't waste much time in offering unusually shrill advice. In response to a specific and imminent threat to Westerners in Benghazi, we urge any British nationals who remain there, against our advice, to leave immediately, it said. Germany has followed suit today, and there's already been an exodus of US citizens after the murder of Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 of his diplomats last September. Islamist jihadi militants have been blamed. And an attack 2 weeks ago on a convoy in which the Italian consul general was travelling triggered further departures. French expats left Benghazi when their government attacked jihadi groups in Mali. It's not known how many Britons live in Benghazi, probably no more than a few dozen. The British ambassador was shot at as he drove through the city in June last year. The Libyan government is reported to consider Britain's get out now advice an overreaction, though. Last week, after the Algeria attack, Libya's Prime Minister said his country was serious about protecting its petroleum installations. Security has been boosted at oil and gas facilities. Most of Libya's oil lies in the east, in Cyrenaica province, deep in the Sahara in what they call the Great Sand Sea. That's why the government in Tripoli fears secessionist moves from Benghazi. They'd stand to lose most of their revenue. Jihadi militants linked to Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb carried out the lethal Algerian raid, and the FCO agrees that today's Benghazi threat may not be unrelated to Al-Qaeda either. Independent intelligence analysts speculate the source of the trouble may be closer to home, though. One suggested that former Libyan rebel groups, Islamist or otherwise, may just be trying to make their presence felt to ensure they get their share of Libya's oil money.
Jonathan Miller reporting well from across the Libyan border in Algeria, in Mali. We're joined tonight by our international editor, Lindsay Hilsum. Lindsay, you have more experience than most of recent events in Libya. Does it seem logical that there could be any kind of link between what happened in Algeria in the desert last week and this group in Benghazi?
Yes, I think so. As you said, John, 2 or 3 of the surviving hostage takers in Algeria, according to intelligence sources based, I believe, on the Algerian government, these men were involved in the killing of Chris Stevens, the US ambassador in Benghazi, on September the 11th last year. Now, Libyans say that it was a group called Ansar al-Sharia, based in the east of Libya, that was responsible for that. But of course there are connections all across the region. Large numbers of Libyans fought for Al-Qaeda in Iraq during that period when they were fighting the Americans there. Bel Mokhtar, who is believed to be responsible for the Algeria hostage-taking, he is reported to have been seen in Sirte in Libya. I'm not sure exactly when, but he's supposed to have tried recruiting there. And this is a vast desert area. Between Mali and Libya lies Niger. Now, today the French have said that they are going to put extra special forces on the uranium mine there called Areva, which is what supplies most of the uranium for the French nuclear power industry. That's because 4 French people were kidnapped from there in 2010, still being held by Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb here. They fear that's going to happen again. So it seems that all across this region, it's a problem, it's increasing, and Libya is the country with the weakest security.
And I gather, I mean, the French in Mali are clearly believing that things are actually going to get better rather than worse.
Well, The French have continued with their air raids. Today, for the first time, we got some footage of the French air raids. And what you see is this is the cockpit footage which they put out, and you see them attacking jihadi vehicles with missiles. And I understand that there was bombing today in a place called Ansongo, which is south of Gao and north of where I am. The French feel that they really have to go for it to try and kill as many of these jihadis as possible. But I've also been talking to Malian sources who say, you know, there's a lot of places they can run to. They can run to the Ouaga forest, which is over on the border with Mauritania. They can run to mountains, which are up in the northeast. One of the most important factors is the Algerians, who have now properly closed their border, in as much as you can in the desert. That may contain them more, but it is extremely difficult to stop these people moving around this region, and none of the governments here have very strong security. I think we're highly likely to see more terrorist attacks.
Lindsay Hilsum in Mali.